I know at the very beginning of this lecture when I uh, talked about the agenda for this one, I said CSS fundamentals would be a large part of it. And it's true. We are going to talk about terminology and syntax, of course. That's something we have to address very early on, so we have something we can talk about. We don't share terminology, we don't know what we talk about. And then syntax is the way we write it, so we can actually read the things and follow along with the code. And then we're talking about something called the box model, which is a very foundational thing in CSS that we have to understand. And box sizing, which is also really a foundational thing. And it's deeply intertwined with the box model. And then we have display, which is a property that we use inside of CSS. Box sizing is also a property, but display as well. And it's also that is really at the core of how we're able to unlock the different properties of CSS. Then we definitely have to take care of this one, color systems. How else are you to find a way to think and use colors inside of CSS? And at the end of this one, not the final end, but almost at the end, we will talk about selectors. And I know I mentioned it earlier when we talked about Word, but it bears mention again. To change the design of something and not everything. Change the sign for a heading to pink, like I said earlier, or an image to be wider, or smaller, or text to be larger, smaller, the distance between things to be larger, or smaller. First, what we do have to do is to have to select the thing we want to change. Because if we don't select, we select everything. So we have to select something. Say and it could be, we don't have to select one thing. We could say that, for example, we want to select everything that have these attributes, or we could select everything as of a specific element, or we could select everything. Keep on going like that. We can really make complex selections. So we can look at selectors and talk about selections. We can make complex selections so we can make the changes we want to make on the elements that need those changes, right? And then we are going to talk about utilities versus components. And utilities versus components are the two main ways of how we structure CSS and use CSS today. And we'll address it further on in future lectures, but this is core, really, core knowledge that we address today. And then we'll get deeper into it in the future when we talk more about components and modern web design. So let's get going then. I'll see you in the next lecture where we'll talk about terminology and syntax.